So what we're going to do now is hand over to Ian. Nelson just teased a little bit of Ian's session in mentioning MCPs. So yeah, in the spirit of this year's theme, Ian has absolutely embraced that as he looks to talk about openEQUELLA and AI. So over to you, Ian.
Not a problem. I will just share my screen. All right, just minor issue here with Zoom. So, all right. Can people see the presentation there? Or are they seeing a black screen?
Not just yet, saying has started screen sharing.
Okay.
I think you just have to warm up the flux capacitor.
There it is.
There we go.
There we
We
go.
can see your PowerPoint now, Ian.
All right. Okay, we'll see how this goes. It may not like my operating system, it seems, but we'll see what happens. All righty. Well, good morning and good evening for those far away. So I'm going to do a bit of a chat around openEQUELLA and AI and looking at how we can leverage openEQUELLA with your AI enterprise platforms. And that's mostly looking at some of the technologies such as MCPs and connectors and sort of taking that a bit further with a few other things. For those who don't know, I'm Ian Stevenson. I'm the lead developer for openEQUELLA. You might have seen me on a few of these before. So looking at unlocking openEQUELLA content so it can be used in AI. So first we go down the typical path of why do this? And the main thing we see with discussions around AI is it's the opportunity to boost productivity. So we're boosting productivity by enabling your openEQUELLA content, your assets, your course content, whatever information you're storing in your openEQUELLA, accessible by AI for exploration. So whether that's summarization, generation, or even management of openEQUELLA, these are the kind of things we can look towards by integrating with AI. The most simple case when we're talking about AI is to have your modules have context that allows them to provide you better responses, ultimately. Now, if you want context that's based in your openEQUELLA, then you need some way to get that easily from openEQUELLA or from any of your other enterprise systems into the language model that your AI platform is using. And by doing those two things, those integration points of sort of summarization or generation or augmentation, and building out context, that allows you to build workflows which are smarter. And not specifically the openEQUELLA workflows, although that's something to consider, but just your day-to-day workflows in the management of your openEQUELLA content. The ways we go about that depends on whether we're focusing on content or some of that live interaction. And so when we are looking at content and context into your language model, there are a few patterns which are emerging. But one of the mentions you'll see is this idea of connectors. And one you'll see often in the Microsoft content, in case of Microsoft Copilot, is Microsoft Copilot connectors or Office 365 connectors. And you also see the term connectors used with ChatGPT as well. And so these ideas are where you are basically extracting content from your enterprise system. So in our case, openEQUELLA, transforming that into a format that is useful, and then placing it into a storage place that the language model can pull context from. So in the case of Microsoft Copilot, that's basically pulling that content out, loading it into Microsoft Graph, which is sort of the Microsoft enterprise database that they build their search tools on, but also which Copilot can connect to. And so you're extracting say, your openEQUELLA resources, maybe attachments, and putting some form of representation of them into Microsoft Graph, and still putting some kind of metadata markers on there so you can still do your normal access controls and maintain the security you expect. The other way that it can be done is looking at live interaction. And that's where we look at what's emerging as sort of the de facto standard for integration with AI between enterprise systems, and that's MCP, which is the Model Context Protocol. And so I'll talk about that a little bit more because that's where ultimately I'm going to go towards a demo at the end. So looking at MCP, it is an open standard and it came from Anthropic, so the company behind Claude AI, and it's been picked up and used very quickly across pretty well all the AI platforms. And even Copilot does have support for it, although they're still currently leaning towards their graph, but they are starting to move towards it. But one way to think about MCP is that it's similar to LTI. LTI being that learning tools interoperability. You can sort of think about MCP being enterprise system interoperability, but with AI platforms. But it can do more than just provide context. It can also provide automation. So the idea is that MCP provides sort of three main things. They provide sort of pre-canned prompts that you can send to your AI language model. They provide access to resources. If you think about sort of items and their attachments, they would be resources that can be pulled in more so for context. And then the real powerhouse and the main thing that most of the integrations are making use of are tools. So tools can be pretty well anything. They could be search my system and find things, or they could be create me some content, or in the case of openEQUELLA, you could envisage having a tool long-term around the idea of, say, creating a new collection or managing your contribution wizards, or even looking at your users, groups, and roles. So tools are sort of very powerful in that respect. So as I said, I will do a demo to show this in case. This is a sort of very early sort of proof of concept looking at the integration of MCP with openEQUELLA through Gemini's CLI, which is a command line interface, sort of chat interface provided by Google for their Gemini model. Initially, I've only got basic tools in there. I'm just looking at content discovery, really. So I have a tool for searching. I have a tool for retrieving the metadata of items. And I also have one other tool, which is around being able to explore the collections in openEQUELLA. But just looking at where more tools could be added into the future, because they are fairly straightforward to add into an MCP server, which is where you host them. The key bit for providing integration of enterprise systems with your AI platforms comes down to the availability of APIs ultimately. So openEQUELLA, as we already know, has a pretty good story when it comes to APIs. We have our legacy API, which is our SOAP API. We have our REST API, which is probably the main way most new things are integrated with openEQUELLA, and including the new UI actually uses the REST API. And as we'll discuss later, we're also starting to build out another API, which is our GraphQL API. So by having a good story of APIs, that allows you to do integration in whichever way you need, especially in the rapidly changing environment of AI and how it's done. But in the case of this MCP server, I have an MCP server that is using the openEQUELLA REST API to then be able to do whatever we want. And the MCP server exposes the API in plain language. So as we know, when we're using AI, it's all about trying to use natural language to interact. So the MCP server tells the language model, these are the tools, and it tells it in very plain language and tries to be as explicit as possible so that then the MCP agent is aware of what tools are there and can provide the textual description of those tools back to a language model. And the language model can come back and tell the agent, okay, I think I need to use this tool. Can you now call into that tool for me and show me the results? And the results also need to come back in a nice, clear structure so that, again, the language model can process it and make decisions. So we will go and have a look at that. I'll just come out of that. And in theory, people can now see a Gemini terminal kind of thing going on.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, so screen sharing has kept working. All right. So this is the Gemini CLI. So this will be a live demo with AI. So everything and anything can go wrong here. So we'll see what happens. I'm also beholden to the speed of AI. So I have changed the model I'm using here to the so-called Flash one to try and speed it up, but we'll see how well that actually comes out. Okay, I'm just I do have a script to go through here to sort of give us a bit of an idea and to get us to an endpoint. So we'll see what happens. Okay, so first with this, I can get it to show me the MCP tools I have attached. So as I said, I've already got openEQUELLA here. And as I said, I've got 3 tools. I've got the idea to be able to retrieve items, search for items, and also list them. So this textual description is provided back to the AI engine so that it's got human language to try and work with and try and figure out what it needs to do. Now, this is going to look somewhat technical, and I do sort of apologize for that, but this is all sort of very new and very much on the edge of things, but it should still be fairly clear, and I'll be talking through it as we go. So what I'll do first is I'll say, can you please show me the list of collections in openEQUELLA? Okay, so at this point, the Gemini CLI knows that these tools are here, and this information should have been provided, well, will start to be provided at this point to the large language model. So it's still sort of spinning up at this point and getting that context into there. So a lot of all this text is about building up that context for the language model to use. Now, I have seen in the past this initial bit can be a bit slow. So we'll see what happens. All this kind of text that's popping up, that's from Google Gemini. I take no responsibility for what comes up there. They're trying to be humorous. But yes, we will see. Okay, so the first time you start using tools from an MCP server, you need to give consent to basically say, yes, go to town with these tools. I don't mind what you do, or you might only say do it once. I'm going to talk to these tools a few times, so I'm going to give it permission to just do whatever it wants. Okay, so at this point, it's gone away. We can see the low-level technical details that has happened through it using the tool, but ultimately, we're more interested in this kind of presentation. So we can see there's a couple of interesting collections there. And actually, one bit I didn't show you, I'll just, jump back over here for a moment. The institution I'm talking to is the Control Headquarters institution. So this is Controls being the good guys, if you like, from Get Smart. So we have a few different things in here. This is using the nice new dashboard. But if we go over to search, we'll see we have those 3 collections in here. And we have all different things, so we can find out about different characters in here. And then we've alternatively got some intelligence reports to find out about some projects and all that kind of thing. So that's actually going to be the system we're working with. So we see there's a few interesting collections there, and one is the intelligence reports. So I'm going to say, can you please retrieve the items in the reports collection and give me a summary of the different classifications of reports. Okay. So one of the metadata items on the intelligence reports is classification. And so what we've seen there is it's gone away, done a search, found all the items, and then it's going through retrieving each item in turn. And by getting each of those items, you can see it's also getting down the metadata. And as I was alluding to there, I've got a few different kinds of metadata items, and one being classifications, and we've got top secret, confidential, and for your eyes only. Now, obviously, that for your eyes only sounds a little bit interesting. So let's see what report we've got there. So, find me more details about the for your eyes only report. So at this point, it can go away. It's already got the details of the report, the UID, and everything else from that above metadata. And it should be able to pull me down the details of that item, again with the get items details. And we can find some more details out. So at this point, we're going through, we're doing sort of some content discovery, and we're being able to do it interactively. Except sometimes AI can go a bit slow, as we've seen here. Other times, there we go. So it's gone away. It's got the report. There we go. So we've got some information about the report. So it's saying there was a bit of a failure here with the cone of silence. That's not surprising. Apparently it may not work too well, so I sent it off for repairs. I see there's a couple of agents involved here. I see there was the chief and Agent 86. So Agent 86 sounds interesting. So can you have a look in the personnel files and tell me more about Agent 86. All right, so we'll go away and see what they can tell us about them. And some details. Okay, so Agent 86, we find out is Maxwell Smart. He's a very sort of confident agent. He's a bit interesting. Okay, so is he mentioned in any other reports? So we'll see if he's been up to anything else. Okay, he's been involved in a few reports. Okay, so that's interesting. He seems definitely to be a bit of a character. And was he involved? We'll see if he often works with anyone else and get a bit of info about that. There might have been a couple there. So it's going through, it's pulling out more items to find out what other information can find about him. So there you go. So he's involved in a couple other operations, and there was Agent 99 and 45. So that's not too surprising. So and in our system, we also know we have a register of the various gadgets and equipment that are out there. So we'll just see which ones of those he's been using. And yeah, I think at that point, we've probably got a pretty good image around this character. Okay. All right. So he's been involved in a few. And all right. So might just do one more thing just to, because I think it pulled that mostly from the report, so that was kind of useful. We'll just say information of these available in the budgets and equipment collection. So being a little bit more pointed to make it choose the correct collection. Sorry. All right, excellent. So it's got a little bit more info about the invisibility pill. Apparently it was lost. I understand the whole container was lost because they also made that out of invisibility material as well. Probably not their best idea. So we've got a bit of a good idea here around sort of Agent 86. So what I think we might do is let's see if we can now, we've pulled this information out about openEQUELLA. We've looked at actually several probably 10 or more items actually in openEQUELLA at this point. So we've put out a fair bit of information. So I reckon let's build that out to something now. So this is where we're looking at, we've pulled information from openEQUELLA, we've explored openEQUELLA, we've looked at our items, we're utilizing our sort of corporate knowledge, and so we can make some use of that. So please produce a report telling the agent 86 was involved in being other agents and use of any. All right. Please write this as a HTML document. Okay, so now we're moving from just pulling stuff from openEQUELLA to now we're actually going to move the openEQUELLA content into a new format. Okay, so it's going to go away. It's going to generate me a HTML document, which it's done. Okay, I just need to, I've got to open another one of these. We should see we now have a report. Okay, let's have a look at our report that we just generated based on that content. All right. All right, Agent 86 activity report. Fantastic. So it's pulled all this out of openEQUELLA. It's given us some details. And so now we've got a nice summary there based on all the information it pulled purely from openEQUELLA. But it's a bit standalone. I would prefer if this integrated back into openEQUELLA. So let's fix that up. Please improve the report by in any of the items links back into openEQUELLA. Because the metadata we get out, we actually have links that point back into openEQUELLA. So there's no reason we can't make this a little bit useful. So it can be a standalone asset, but something that we can also then still integrate back into openEQUELLA. So let that pull that out. And then planning ahead a little bit while I wait for that to finish what it's doing. I'm thinking it would also be good if we made this a little bit more official. So my institution is /control. So let's get the institution's logo and we'll use that as well when we come back to this. So still trying to figure out what it's doing there, but at least we've got a logo ready. Let's see how we go. If it takes too long, I'll prompt it again. We'll see what happens. There we go, linking report items, generating links. So it's reading the existing report that it had already generated. And so now it can go in and improve them. So yes, so go ahead, make your changes. And I'm going to say, I'm going to be bold and say yes, allow always, which is a little bit bold because that means it's going through and just writing to my file system, but should be okay. So we can see it's finding a few different things that should edit there and it's updated it. So let's go have a look at that. Let's see what it's done to our report. Okay, so Maxwell Smart's now linked, so I can click on that. Let's open a new tab. There we go. It's gone straight into Maxwell Smart. Yep. Okay. It's definitely him. All right. So that link's looking good. And it's also linked out to some of our projects. We know this was over here. So here's our report on the project see-through. That should have worked properly. Yeah, we've got our report. We're linking all the way through now. So now our single document that we got it to generate is looking pretty good. So we might just do one last touch to that, and then I think we'll have a pretty good report. So I think I've still got that on my clipboard. Can we make the report a bit more professional? Please this logo, oops, at the top, and also include an executive summary at the top, detailing the effectiveness of this agent. All right. So let's sort of go and polish that up a bit, and we'll have a final report that we can then go and send off to whoever we wish to send it to. Maybe the chief might be interested. We're not sure, but we'll see what happens. So what we've seen here is we've been able to basically transform content in openEQUELLA and pull it out. This is still a proof of concept, so it's only doing that searching, retrieval of metadata, and that kind of thing. It'd be easy to build this further to also pull down the actual attachments and extract them out. So in this case, we've got a little fun fictitious control headquarters and that kind of thing. But you could imagine more so maybe in an educational context that you might have course content split across various items. So you might want to explore some subjects, and then you might want to pull down the different bits of assets that are relevant to the topic you want to build something out of. So for example, you might want to do something as simple as a HTML file. There was the exploration around H5P and SCORM and those kind of things. You could see the ability to possibly build that out and produce those kind of assets and then put them back in. But you could arguably also put them back in within here, because we can also add tools that would be around the creating of items and publishing items. So they could get put in there as well. And although here I've been using a chat interface of this text-based, I'm querying openEQUELLA, it's coming back out, you can write agents and MCP agents that are ultimately called in a completely automated fashion from elsewhere. So you could imagine having a scripting step possibly within a openEQUELLA workflow that could possibly call out to an AI agent that is connected to MCP to do some of the sort of validation steps within a workflow. And it can go through and save you time, get some of those efficiencies by doing that. And while I've been talking, we can see in the background the agent's sort of working away to try and improve this HTML. It found it made a couple of defects there at first, so it's gone back and fixed them up and produced our final report. So let's see what it did. Did it break everything, or did we get something useful? No, we've got a very official looking control report. We've got a nice summary here telling us about Agent 86, and then we've got details about the agent, what they've been involved in, any equipment they used, and we've also got links back into openEQUELLA. All right, so that is sort of just showing what we can do with MCP and openEQUELLA. And at this point, it's purely a proof of concept, but hopefully it sort of gets people sort of thinking a little bit and looking at what might be possible. And so that sort of brings me to the end of looking at, AI, openEQUELLA, and things we might be able to do into the future.
Very good. Thanks so much, Ian. Yeah, lots of positive emojis throughout that presentation. Very cool, very exciting. You know, obviously embrace the theme of today as well. So.